Welcome to the JoContractor Show, a podcast created by three regular Joes. The JoContractor Show is a place where trade professionals, business owners, and homeowners looking for solid advice and amusement can hear stories of great success and great failure in the turbulent and unpredictable world of construction. On the JoContractor Show, we dig deep into the realm of remodeling and construction. We chat with construction trade professionals, business owners, and homeowners alike. We support local, independent contractors and those who put their trust in the hands of these capable and hardworking business owners and tradespeople. We discuss construction and home maintenance from multiple angles, and we do it with compassion, purpose, and humor. Listen as Lori, Merrick, and Sam, along with a wide variety of guests, explore topics related to construction, home ownership, small business creation, and more. A quick reminder, don't forget to send your questions to questions@JoContractorShow.com. And after you've done that, please take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe, or talk about us tomorrow morning at the local coffee shop. We appreciate feedback and critique, and it lets us know that you're out there and that you care.
Well, here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the JoContractor Show. It's been a little while since we did one.
It has. Again, excited to see you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
Same here. So, Lori, Merrick, and myself, we're all here again today. We won't bore you with too much of an introduction, but we are excited to say that progress is being made on the JoContractor app, which we don't talk a ton about.
Yet.
But it is coming out, and really it's going to be a very beneficial tool for smaller contracting outfits, especially companies of, where you're the only employee maybe, or you've got like 5 or 10 employees. So look for that software in the first quarter of 2023, which is coming up. So
Very exciting.
We are so excited. So if we're that excited, just imagine how the people are going to be that use it.
I know I have like a hard time putting a whole bunch of excitement into my voice, but I am super excited about this. It has been a long time coming, and only through this fantastic partnership and all of the rest of what we've done has it really started to fully materialize, and things are looking great.
Well,
so
not just a business venture, it's also something that we need too.
Yeah.
It's 100% something we need. It's fun, it's easy, it works. It's a powerful tool in a really complete package that isn't overly complex.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
Yeah. And we have a guest today. And Merrick, since this is your guest, I'm going to allow you to do the introduction.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to have Mary Belfry on our show today. Mary, I did a bunch of work on Mary's house last year, and also spent a lot of time drinking coffee and hanging out with Mary also. So we built a friendship as well. And
those are the best kind of clients. I love that.
Yep.
So
Let's hope so.
Well, he's done with the project, right?
That's right.
And you're here, and you're smiling.
I know.
I wasn't sure.
I got the invite. So
Yep. You can be friends now. The job is done.
Yeah, I'll jump right in with a quick question about that.
okay.
I've noticed over the years that there's like these stages of grief, sort of, but there's stages of construction grief that people go through, and it's sort of like, and it's not all grief, but it's just emotional states that you go through. And so you get really excited when you find the right contractor, and then you wait for a while to get things going, and you get super excited when the demolition happens, and then nothing happens forever, and you get really disappointed, and then the project finally finishes, and you get pretty excited again, and then you realize like they need a big check, and then you hate them for a little while, and then what I've always found, you guys know the process.
Oh, yeah.
You went through this, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What I've always found is like the best projects and the best clients are the ones where after like 6 months, they finally realize just how great things are and how much it's improved their life, this project that happened. And then they come back to you and they're like, I love you. you know. So is
Right.
that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I will say,
Yeah, let's hear your process.
I'm curious. I kind of went through it, but I want to see if that.
here's our situation. It wasn't a project that we were super excited, like we were going to spend all this money like on a new kitchen or new bathrooms. It was a forced project because of the damage we had to our house. And it just kept on coming.
What kind of damage was it?
Well, it started with we needed a new roof.
Okay.
And then I could go on and write a book, but bottom
You're
line,
here to tell a story. You go right ahead.
how long do you have? And then what happened, one of the major things I had, before Merrick started working for us, I had our 2 bedrooms upstairs, our master and another bedroom, painted. We have an old house, you know, everything that goes with that. And
What year of house?
What year?
Yeah.
I don't know, because during COVID?
Oh, no, what year was the...
Was the house built?
Was the house
Oh,
built?
the house built.
Sorry.
I thought you meant when the
just-
project was done,
No,
because
no,
I
no.
don't even know that. 1936.
Okay, that gives us a good image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All brick home, and it was insulated when it was built, which we discovered. Oh, and so before Merrick came, I started to smell something in our bedroom.
Okay.
And it was right behind me when I was laying in the bed. And it just kept getting worse and worse. Pretty soon I had my nose to the wall and realized, and looked and had a couple bubbles and realized we had major water intrusion issues.
Was this from winter ice damming or something else?
This was years of stuff building up, drip, drip, drip.
First
And
floor,
what we-
second floor?
Yeah.
Which
Second
one?
floor.
Second floor. And what we realized at the end of the day, when Merrick called me with not great news, this was after we had done a lot of work, and he said, I hate to tell you, because by then we'd blown in insulation. So I'm kind of fast forwarding here, but it tells us what was wrong, is that there was condensation. In our attic, they had staple gunned that silver insulation, which we found out should never have been there. And there was water seeping there, and it was seeping right down into that area.
The condensation.
Condensation.
So it was
Station.
condensing water on top of it.
Because it was trapped.
Yeah.
All
trapped
those
moisture.
years, because then it ended up being in every bedroom.
Oh.
And so that was the issue. But we didn't discover it because we did have to have it mitigated by a professional company, professional mitigator. And so they took care of that. But then later, when we thought everything was done, Merrick went up to the attic and he said, we've got wet insulation still, because that condensation we weren't aware was as bad as it was, which was no fault of Merrick's. So then we went to wall 2 and cut open an exploratory hole. That old insulation was black, so we pulled down that wall. Then another wall in another bedroom, pulled down a ceiling in a den, pulled out our whole foyer wall ceiling.
Yep.
Because there was water from the vent pipe, and that was a fiasco because the plumber thought the rusted out area was like here. It was like, let's say 2 feet above, 2 feet below the ceiling, bedroom ceiling. And so he fixed that. And then what he didn't realize is that 2 feet below the hole, that was also corroded, but he couldn't see it. So that we had to open up again.
Right.
So it was just opening, reopening, closing, you know.
So you had more moisture. You had plumbing. So the plumbing stack was broken open, so you had moisture coming from that too? Mm-hmm. Oh, God. So you had lots going on.
And on the outside of the house, we had to have all the old fascia removed, because we had crown molding fascia, which, as you know, does not work to apply gutters to.
Right.
And continually was pushing water down also into those walls.
Okay.
So they did an incredible job with the carpentry, had an incredible team, and they redid all that, painted it, got it back up, looks gorgeous. And then we had old copper gutters removed and new copper gutters put up.
That's what I call a non-sexy job.
Oh, God,
It's not a kitchen.
No.
It's not a bathroom.
Like
and it's like
not an
anxiety producing just to think about it, even from the contracting side.
I think we were holding our breath.
I know, because it's like all of us are sitting there trying to diagnose exactly like, okay, where would I have started?
Right.
And, but where was the problem? But, the thing is, as a contractor, I mean, most of us just have a true desire to help people get their problems fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get into something like that, you have to look at the client and say, like, I have no idea. I have no idea how big this is going to be. Don't be mad at me. Don't kill the messenger, but there's a lot of problems here.
Yeah.
Well, we were just hired to do the exterior trim. That was the original. And then maybe one
that's
wall
right.
of sheetrock. I think it was a little bit of interior. That one wall that had already been
Mitigated.
demoed. We thought we're doing one wall,
Yeah.
painting a bedroom, doing the exterior stuff. And then, as we got in, it just one thing after another. We got, had all the, the A team out there though. We had Dustin, who's has been a guest on our show.
Yep.
Troy, he'd be a good
Troy
guest.
Moorhead.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I had a client a few years back that they had a little bit of rotted trim around a couple of windows, and $600,000 later, we were done with their work. I mean, literally, I laugh. Brendan and Chelsea, if you're listening, it wasn't intentional. Well, I mean, it just ended up, the things like that. And some, I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think some of the things that the mistakes that some contractors make, or some carpenters or some people in the trades, because it's not a contracting thing necessarily. But anyway, you take an old house that was built a certain way, that breathes a certain way, right, and then you apply these new things to it, and you create these problems that the house would have never had otherwise. But now you've introduced this new thing, and
right. Yeah, it happens all the time. There's no one way to do anything in these old houses, and it might be like 5 different ways even in the same house. And people think insulation is like so non-sexy, but man, that's the most important piece. And I like to train my carpenters. We just did this yesterday. We were in a basement, and I said, what are you guys going to do with these walls? What would you do? I like to ask them, and they're like, do you see anything wrong? And they're like, I go, look down, see that mold there, but it's not wrong. The builder built it to the code at that time, right? So you used to put the plastic against the basement walls. Then you'd throw some fiberglass insulation that had faced fiberglass. So there you go. You've got a double vapor barrier, and for sure you got mold.
I mean, how many houses got
it wasn't done wrong at that point,
right.
But it's a moving target on the old houses, and I think it's not moving as much anymore, hopefully.
Yeah.
You get stuck in there. You could have that house that,
Well, what I appreciated about Merrick is that even though it was a moving target, our project, we always met and did, brainstorming, or here's what we are going to do, or do you want to do exploratory holes? Where do you want? Whatever. Luckily, we had insurance that was covering a fair amount.
Yeah.
And also having a good contractor that will help document all that. Photographs and everything that Merrick did really helped us so that I could get as much money as possible from the insurance company.
Yeah, that's a big claim to have to put in.
Yay, Merrick.
Yeah, good job.
Yay, Merrick. And so we never really, I don't know what kind of client I was, other than I really tried to be appreciative. I think that's important for whoever's listening here, is that you have to be appreciative of your contractors, because it's hard. It's hard to meet everybody's needs, and so I hope we did that. I made cookies on Fridays.
Oh, that goes a long way.
Cookies are the best.
I'm like, I'm gonna make these guys love me.
Yeah. I never understand why somebody wants to piss off a contractor or not work with them when you're going to get the best. If you bring those cookies on, man, why not? And seeing them, these carpenters and tradespeople, you work hard. You're not choosing this career just to, lollygag your way through life.
Well, it was hot that summer, so that.
Had you had any major projects done prior to that? Like throughout your life, have you been involved in other big construction projects?
In our old house, we had a first and second floor addition put on.
Yeah.
And with that, a master bath. And we had an old house then, too. And so we really worked hard with the company to make sure that it flowed well. And we did have a disaster with that. And it was the contractor.
Oh.
Right.
And it was, well, I won't use the full term here, but it was, we went out of town, and I was pregnant at the time and couldn't be around some of the varnishes.
Sure.
So we left and whatever. And so we got home, and I went to, like you do, you go to feel that new wood and how nice it's going to be, and the new varnish is on. It was rough because they didn't sand it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how could you possibly think that was a good job?
Right. Yeah, I used to do that kind of work. So did you, I'm sure, right? Have you done any lacquering or anything like that?
But not much, but I mean, I understand the process.
Enough to know not to.
Yeah, I've done a lot of
sand
enamel.
it.
I've done a lot of sprayed enamel, which is,
Similar.
Same
you
idea.
Spray and you sand and you spray and you sand.
Yeah, you go through with a sanding sealer, you seal the whole thing, it pulls up the grain, you sand it, and then you can go over it 2 or 3 times with lacquer or whatever, and it turns out beautifully
so clearly
smooth.
we shouldn't have left town.
No.
Well, they shouldn't have done that.
No. So the contractor had to be held accountable.
And were
did.
they?
Yeah.
Good.
And I said, I don't want
good.
them back in our house.
Yeah.
Find somebody else.
Right.
So.
And that's another challenge as a contractor. You come in and your client may have trauma from a previous construction project.
That's kind of what I was wondering, why I asked, because generally speaking, people, their first one doesn't all go well. And then if you catch them, like the people who have gone through a lot of projects and they're more seasoned about it, they're like, oh yeah, I know where we're at here with this and that and whatever. But not to excuse someone not doing a good job. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
If someone, sometimes, and we all know there's people in our industry who do these types of things. Sometimes it is sort of, if you're out of town and you're not looking and maybe they can kind of slip one by you or something, there are people that will do that sort of stuff, and that really pisses me off.
I make a point of telling my clients they can't leave town while we're on their project. Unless if it's only for a little bit or something like that, and that we can have communication through FaceTime or pictures and things like that. Because expectations are just so different from everybody's eyes, and they're gone and they come back and they could be shocked because that's not what they had. It looked on paper, it looked fine, but in actuality, they weren't happy with it. So I try to have my clients stick around town.
That's funny. Yeah, I would, if anyone's listening and ever wants to hire me, do it when you're out of town. I love it when people are gone. But generally I am, I don't have a lot of people working with me. It's me doing my tile work now and stuff.
Right,
and I am
right.
so meticulous about everything that I like.
Don't get me wrong. I don't really love the clients being around all the time either.
Right. It's it's one of those things. It's tough for everyone, but in the end, you as a client, Mary, you want to pay for a good product, and
Right.
we want to provide a good product and be paid well to do it. So, yeah.
And I did remember one other thing we did, and it was before you came, Merrick, and we did that bathroom for John, my husband, in the basement. Wasn't crazy about them.
Yeah, so you'd had a couple of experiences where you weren't
I mean,
thrilled.
the other was years and years ago, 30 plus years
Sure.
ago, but this one was beforehand. And
So do you think, I'm just guessing that it's very important. Do you look for a good fit? Is that what you're looking for? Maybe not that first one,
absolutely.
but after you realize how important that was, right?
Absolutely. And I, clearly didn't call him back, so that was a clear sign. I wasn't going to even give him an opportunity
Right.
to talk to us about this. And so I heard about Merrick, and it was a great fit.
And how did you hear, like, how did you find a contractor? Like, what process did you use?
Well, I have used Nextdoor, but I find it to not be terribly reliable. And,
Oh, that's interesting. So next door, huh?
No, that's not where she found me.
but that's not where I found
you've used
Merrick.
next door before.
I have.
Yeah.
And I got
Fly-by-nighters?
this guy that put our hot water heater in, and he was supposed to come back and do some other things, the dryer vent and something else. I paid him, for a chunk of, because that was the only last thing, and he disappeared.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And he'd gotten these rave reviews, and I'm like, okay.
Not
I
if you
got on
disappear.
and didn't give him a rave review.
Maybe his
but
friends.
I'm trying to think. I think I just did a Google search, and that's how I found you.
Well, you told, because I always ask when I go up
Yes.
to the
What
estimate,
was it?
where did you hear about us? And yeah, it was a Google search for rot repair.
Oh, so you had like a keyword in your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I put, because I'm really good about keywords.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keyword, and that's how Merrick
And then you were
popped up.
looking for, then when you met him, you're like, this is the guy? Or
Yeah.
had you done enough research previous to meeting
Yeah,
him?
I'd
even?
done enough, and I don't know. I just had I think because I'd had experiences before where I kind of went against my gut feel, which for me is,
That's
kiss
always a
of
bad
death.
idea.
And whether,
Yeah,
no matter
I know it never works, no matter what.
No, it doesn't.
So I didn't have that feeling, and then when Merrick came up with the drawings for the fascia and spent time, and I think you came over when the adjuster was there too, the insurance adjuster.
Yep. I stepped right in to represent them, even on the things that were already in motion over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
usually
their
I'd call
gutter
Mary
people.
and I'd be like, could you put a pot of coffee on? I'll be over in
Yeah, right.
a couple hours.
We use Sheridan. I'm going to give them a
Sure.
Sheridan steel. Is it? They do the copper gutters.
It's Sheridan Sheet Metal.
Oh, sheet metal.
Is the
yeah,
name.
they are incredible because copper gutters are real art,
Yep.
and they do the Euro style 5-inch. What do you call
And
them?
they custom
half moon.
Custom bent them for
Custom.
you.
They do them right
the old one.
right there.
They solder them together right there on
Yeah,
site, I
fun.
think.
Yeah,
Or
and they came up with the design, Merrick and the guy that works for him, on how they could work with the front of our house where we'd had some major issues with water intrusion, and it really has worked.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Great.
And I made a great relationship with them. So now anytime a client needs some gutters in a nice neighborhood, I hook them straight up with Sheridan Sheet Metal. And then anytime Sheridan Sheet Metal has some rotten fascia that they need to get
Sure.
fixed, they call us.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I was thinking we had like a big screw up on her project right near the end. So,
that's right.
you get
Not to your the sheetrock.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the guy.
So we go through all of the different things. We've had this surprise and that surprise, and the budget's gone up, and we're playing. Like it's kind of like this roller coaster in the relationship throughout the entire thing, and you think that you're getting to the end and that's all behind us, and then why don't you tell? You could tell us.
So, and, because I just preface this by saying I had we had done all of our hardwood floors while we lived in the house not long before this project. And so I had learned to live kind of in chaos, which was good. Because everything was covered up. Oh, and that's the other thing. Merrick and his crew were excellent on covering everything. In fact, when they were mitigating that one wall, your first time kind of in the house, he redid their taping of everything down because he said it's terrible. It's going to get into your bed. So anyways, we had done that in the living room. And so when this guy came in to do the final sanding of the sheetrock and mudding and all of that, his, I don't know, vacuum cleaner or whatever it is, blew up. Anyways, there was dust everywhere. And, we have a lot of old pieces, so there was dust. But what Merrick did was he hired a cleaning crew to come in.
That's the only way to fix that.
Yeah, your carpenters can't really do that good of a job.
No.
Yeah. So thank you. That meant a lot.
Well, first and this was all unpaid, obviously, because it was our mistake. And, I sent, we had sent my team over to do the pre-cleaning. And then I went over there myself to make sure that, everything was ready to go. And then we sent the house cleaners in afterwards. And, my biggest concern at this point was, did I tank the relationship? Because of all the other little things along the way.
Sure.
There's just only so much that a homeowner or any human can take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's, throughout the years, that's controlling the cleanliness of the job site, especially dust, but it can be anything. That's like the biggest differentiator for me between who I consider to be a good tradesperson or a good contractor or a good subcontractor. Like, if you're leaving the place in a chaotic mess all the time, even if you're doing good work, I don't consider it you a very good, tradesperson. I just don't.
Yeah, I've had clients say that they'll be talking to somebody else about me, and it might be in the same room at a party or whatever, because now they're my friends. We're done with the job.
Yeah.
And they said they're so clean. I'm like, that's what you remember? We were so clean. What about the project?
Oh no, it's. You got to remember we're in people's homes doing this work right in their space, and making a mess is just sort of disrespectful in some way.
So, Mary, I would like to talk about. Sorry, I'm saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something, because a lot of listeners, I'm sure all of them out there, all these clients, want to hear about budget, right? So if you are hiring a contractor, you should go with the lowest bid, right? It shouldn't really matter except for going with the lowest price. And that's what some people are going to say. And then I'm going to ask you, I want to hear your take on that.
I'd pay more. I would, in a heartbeat. And probably because, for two reasons. It's you pay,
you get what you pay for. Yeah.
And Mary's a rather frugal person.
What? Have you met my husband? What are you talking about? I get my nails done.
We're not that good of friends, Merrick.
I go to the best hairdresser in town.
How about if you were to rephrase that as Merrick?
Sean's frugal.
Merrick can find frugality in certain aspects of her life. How about that? Would that work?
She's she's paying attention to the dollars. Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, I knew kind of what you were driving at.
Yes,
so, yeah.
I do pay attention to that. So, but
which is fair.
As far as your question, no, I'm not going to go with the lowest. And part of it is I have my own business, and I've always been self-employed. And I would tell clients, yes, I'm more expensive, but you can go to that person and they're not going to deliver.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll deliver.
I think that's nice to hear out loud from a client instead of the contractor
I mean, I
saying
feel like
that.
you kind of set her up on that one.
I kind of did.
I would have
but
said
I liked it. I liked it, nonetheless.
I would
was
have
trying.
said it, really.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, you're driving home the point that, if you have a $10,000 budget and that's all you can ever spend, and you're not really concerned about the quality, then fine, spend what you spend on whatever you want. But if you're really serious about any project, I can't believe the amount of wasted money people have spent, and then they have to get things fixed afterward.
redone.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to find people who can actually do the work.
And Mary, I think you said it just a little bit ago about your gut feeling. Sometimes it's not about money, and it's about that gut feeling and the relationship in a bigger project for sure. But Sam, you're right. In something small, maybe.
I mean, I don't begrudge people the fact that they only have a limited amount of resources,
Right.
and they need this thing done, and they just get it done cheaply.
Right.
And they live with it, and they're content with it because that's all they had,
Right.
and that's what they wanted. But that's not. That doesn't mean call me and expect me to do it for that.
Right.
Because I can't.
Right, and
So-
I think that's something, people's expectations, they have this thing in their head where, well, I can get this much done for that amount of money, and why can't you do that? And it's, I sold real estate for a number of years, and it's the same thing when somebody says, well, I want that house. And I'm like, well, but you don't have the money.
Right.
Right.
I could go out to Rogers and buy a house for $350,000.
I'm not going to show you
Right.
that house.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
the same mindset.
Yeah.
People want something they can't afford.
Yep.
And or they go with less,
Right.
once they kind of see what the reality
Yeah,
is.
I've run into, I've helped some people out who I have the utmost respect for. They just didn't have a lot of resources, and they want to figure out how to get it done cheaply. And here I know these people who can help
Right.
you out, and I'll do this little part of it. It'll make the end result a little nicer, and
Right.
work with them. But yeah,
I definitely. We'll work on phases, or I'll say what part can you do?
Yep.
Or how about we get it up to this point, and then we'll revisit this for phase 2. So there's a lot of options without making with the client not spending on a budget, client on a budget,
Right.
and the contractor making enough to make ends meet.
Yep.
So that it's a win-win.
Right.
Yep. All right, you guys. Well, we're midway through. Let's take a brief break here and come back in a little bit, and we'll figure out some more questions for you, Mary. All right?
Oh.
We will be back to the show after a few quick ads from our valued sponsors. Wonder Woman Construction is a Minneapolis-based, woman-owned residential and commercial construction and electrical company. Lori and her team pride themselves on their commitment to long-term green and sustainable building practices, and they apply their deep understanding of building science to each project they take on. They are dedicated to the complete satisfaction of every client. One more thing that you absolutely cannot miss about Wonder Woman Construction is the fact that every employee loves what they do and truly enjoys working with each other. The best projects are those that are done by happy people, and Wonder Woman Construction is full of happy people. Visit WonderWomanConstruction.com to get started on your happiest project ever. Kinetic Legacy is the company that powers the JoContractor app. Their unique platform blends the good parts of social tech with their one-of-a-kind data organizing system, giving communities large and small a safe, private space to stay connected and to keep information and memories organized. If you and your community have a shared purpose or passion and are looking for a better way to stay connected, contact Kinetic Legacy today at kineticlegacy.us. Find out how groups from contractors to campers, tribal communities, unions, and alumni organizations are finding their way to meaningful new spaces in this increasingly digital world. Again, that's kineticlegacy.us. Reader Home Restorations is a Minnesota-based full-service residential general contracting company specializing in the repair and painting of historic homes. Whether your home needs repairs, painting, or remodeling, Reader Home Restorations has got you covered. We understand that every home, client, and project is unique. At Reader Home Restorations, we pledge to give you a long-lasting product while paying close attention to client questions and concerns. Check us out at www.readerhomerestorations.com. That's Reader spelled with 2 E's, homerestorations.com. The JoContractor Show doesn't let just any old company put an ad in the middle of a show this important. They have to pay us. Send us an email if you're certain your business should be featured on our show.
Okay, let's do the second half, everyone.
Right.
Second half.
I've been thinking during the break about, because it goes two ways, right? It's like
What goes two ways?
The relationship with a client and a contractor.
Yep.
It's like you could have a really good contractor and a client that's not good, and the project's going to go wrong, or vice versa. You could have somebody that's really an attentive, good client that gets a rotten contractor.
Totally.
And one of the really special things about that project and working with Mary was the fact that she has the experience as a small business owner. She has the experience
nice.
as
Yeah.
a realtor. So
Right.
when these things would come up, when I would explain them to her, they made sense. And it wasn't like all my fault. It was like, well, this is just what happens with old houses. And this is how things go sometimes.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think, you could almost do with giving personality tests both sides and saying, just like they do in business, like because like I'm not a phone clipped to my belt, clipboard in my hand kind of contractor who's really great with all of the numbers. I'm more of a artistic sort of thing, or so, and that doesn't work for everyone, and I totally understand that. But in the end, I'm going to get the job done, and it's going to be great. But there are people who, no matter how good I did for them, they're not going to be happy with the way it went. Some part of it, some part of it. So, and then other people I get along with super, super well, and you sit and have coffee and whatever, and the project goes sideways a little bit, but you work through it, and it's all great. And
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I always tell my clients that we're going to get along at the beginning and not in the middle, and then again at the end.
Yeah, it's helpful to let them know what to expect.
Yeah.
That all hell will break loose in the middle, but everything will end up fine.
Yeah.
Mary's nodding and smiling.
Yeah.
At the end of the
I know it's
there
kind
were
of a sad
points.
thing in a way, though, to have to be in that position. But it's like I don't have to do that with my 3-day to 3-week projects so much because it's a smaller portion of it
Right.
that I'm doing now. But I know, any 3-month to 6-month project, you better tell them that.
Right.
You better let them know that you're not going to like me for a while,
Right.
but it's not because I'm not going to get this done.
And if everything goes great, then even better. But you don't want to get them. I think I've said this before. I used to be an optimist and say, oh no, that's easy. And I never say that anymore because then that means less dollars. It just means that we can do it. Or things are going to go really well because they never do. And rarely they do. And every now and then, it's a nice surprise. So I never want to get anybody's hopes up at all until we're
Right.
done.
Well, one thing I noticed is how good Merrick is with his team in meeting with them to communicate what's going to happen and what needs to get done. And I could see that. I mean, I was home, and that makes a huge difference. I did recently have an experience we had concrete work done. Mm-hmm. And I can't say who they are, but they are one of the top concrete companies. And it was a disaster, one
Was it
after
really?
the other. And I ended up becoming the project manager and had to check everything. And it was the most frustrating, and they still have to come back in the spring. And I think I wanted them to call Merrick and say, I am not this horrible person. You know, I am
So were
really
you-
not. I'm really not.
Were you worried that
Oh, I'm sure they saw my name come through and they were just like, oh no.
oh, don't answer that call?
Mary Belfry's back.
Yeah, do you feel
We don't want to talk to her.
do you feel like you can be picky about things like that? Like,
Well,
do you think?
well, I can give you an example.
Or were you being picky even?
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Because I went out on the front steps when it was just the footings. I mean, this was $32,000.
What kind of project, can I ask?
Yeah.
Concrete walkway.
Okay.
And new steps.
Yep.
And then people think it's crazy, but we did the public sidewalk because we live in Minneapolis and it was going to take forever and it was in terrible shape for a number of reasons. So
I don't even know the process. Otherwise, you'd submit to the city and
Right.
then
Wait.
wait.
well,
2 years.
it's not
It's
your
2 years
you
back.
have to pay for it anyways.
Right.
They assess you.
They assess.
You're
yeah.
assessed,
Yeah.
and it's a terrible job. I mean, all you have to
No, it sounds like you did the right thing to just get it
no,
done.
and it
Yeah.
wasn't, and we had to get it done right
It's your
away.
sidewalk,
right?
you know, you're gonna pay for it, yeah.
We could have done 5, or we're on a corner lot, or we could have done 13 squares. So we
Yeah.
did 13.
Okay.
So we've got these front steps, and I walked out there and I said to my husband, "These seem small. They just seem not big enough." And it was just the footings, so I measured, and and then we took the old railings and put them up. They were 9 inches too short as far as depth from door to the front.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's not 2 inches, that's 9. And then, so they had to redo those. Then the part that comes up to meet your front steps, so they finished, they pulled all that up, they laid down the new part, and I look, and that's over too far, and there's a 6-inch gap. I'm like, how do you not see this?
So like the apron off the end of the steps that meets with the
Yes,
sidewalk.
that's the word.
Yep.
And then the terrace steps, which are your steps, as your contractors know, the ones right by your sidewalk, those were all off, short and lopsided, and so they ripped those out. Well, then now there's pebbles, like little rocks.
Yeah,
Not
so
like
the aggregate.
tiny,
Yeah.
and we paid for this expensive concrete.
I
we
suspect
paid-
I know which outfit you're
We paid more for this concrete so
Right.
it would look old. But I'm like, the guy said, well, that's just old looking. And I go, yeah, go look at the 1936 sidewalks. You're right. So, I'm not very Minnesota-like. I'm going to hold my own. And
Sure.
so I said, you have to come back and do this. And they added a step there. John and I looked at pictures and we're like, these aren't the same. So they even added a step and it doesn't need one.
Man, where do you cut your losses on that one? I don't know.
I know, and it sounds
Jeez,
like
one after another.
And the guys that worked on it swore. And if I will tell anybody, they had loud music and they were swearing. And it wasn't just like,
oh, they're like my uncles or something.
not delicate. Not
So rough.
If I want to say
Rough.
there's delicate swearing and then there's hardcore swearing. And I swear, but boy, our neighbors complained.
Whoa.
Yeah, that
No, you want nice people.
And cigarette butts.
Oh, yeah.
concrete dudes.
They need to work on their company
It is
culture.
not 1950,
I mean, seriously.
or
Well,
70.
concrete is hardcore.
It is. It is. I have a lot of experience with the world of stucco and concrete and whatnot. And I mean, that roughness is fine, but yeah, no, that's funny because this is the homeowner show, right? Like I always told anyone, roofing can be a little bit rough too. And I had a roofer who was flicking cigarettes off the top of the roof and swearing too loud up there. And I'm like, no, you cannot do that. You got to treat your clients like it's going to grandma's house. If you use coarse language, I swear. You know, I'm not afraid to swear. But when you go hang out with grandma, even when I was 22 or whatever, you can shut it off. And that's the way you got to treat your job site.
It's well placed. You can still swear around grandma as long as you throw it in tactfully.
And it's kind of funny or something.
Oh, God, my grandma was like really, really old, though. I couldn't swear around her ever, but I get what you're saying.
And I want to give them kudos that they have right away when there was an issue, they said, no problem, we will take care of it.
Okay.
That sounds to me like super frustrating for you and for them, though, because if I've got things where I've got to tear out and redo, that's just like such a waste.
So frustrating on both sides.
God, I mean, just get it right.
Right.
They lose money on it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have to say that one of my favorite clients are those that are really upfront and tell me what they want. And they're really clear and maybe less emotional and less passive aggressive, because I can't read a mind. And if they don't like something, you need to let me know, and you need to let me know early on so we can change it if it's something aesthetic or whatever it might be. Structural, hopefully I got that one right. But on the other hand, I love my clients that have a strong voice in the project, and they're clear and they move forward faster. Totally. And so I can't imagine. I mean, those contractors, I think, should appreciate you. I love that in a client.
Well, the funniest thing was, at some point, I think when the apron didn't fit, and of course, I constantly was taking pictures and sending it to them. I decided to include the president in this group text. I don't think he knew it was from me. And so his reply was, who the hell did this?
Right.
And so I knew right away that there was not going to be an issue. Well, of course there wasn't going to be an issue.
But it is an issue. It is an issue to have you know, like even if you fix your mistakes, if you're constantly making mistakes and having them fixed, like that just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
you're not going to probably hand that name out to your friends.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I couldn't, do the sodding or some of the landscaping we want.
It throws the whole project off.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
Here.
Oh, you're from here?
I'm from
Okay, because you seem like an East Coast person.
I was thinking Chicago. I caught just a little bit of that, but I guess I was wrong. Yep.
It's the lack of passive aggressiveness.
Just plain aggressive.
Just straight aggressive. Yeah, it's the directness. You can't be from here.
I'm not Scandinavian.
Is that it?
No. All right. So please don't take offense, whoever's out there listening.
No one listens. I'm just kidding.
Who's Scandinavian? I don't know any.
So I could have been swearing.
Oh, you absolutely can. No one gives a shit. It's all good. No. It's funny if you are listening. We would love some feedback. It's very quiet out there. We love some feedback. We do have listeners, believe it or not.
I'm sure you do.
We know that, but we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Even the angry Scandinavians who are our first homeowner guest is now offended. They're not easily offended, are they?
Oh, no.
They wouldn't tell you if they were.
Yeah, right.
I used to have a lot of East Coast clients, and they always thought I was from New York. So
yeah.
I'm from Massachusetts,
right?
And the way that Mary and I conversate and everything, it feels like somebody from New England.
Funny how different the way things, the way people communicate from different areas. Like it is funny. Yeah.
So, Mary, I have friends that say I need to find a contractor or a handyman or somebody to do something. What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them, because I find people so differently. Well, first I would obviously call all your friends and get as many referrals. Ask them who was great and who was horrible. I think that getting the bad list is a good start because, right away you can check them off. Right. And Then, if you have a real estate agent, I would suggest calling them
That's a good
because
one.
they know a lot of people in the business. And it would be, if you know good agents, I think they are excellent at networking people.
Yeah.
And, depending on to kind of where you are at economically, interior designers know a lot of people. So, neighbors, because they kind of,
Yep.
we all talk.
Yep.
Yeah, almost all of that. I mean, in fact, I think everything you just said is word of mouth in some way.
Yep.
Yeah, word of mouth is big.
Yeah.
Is big.
Yeah.
But like I've said, but those weren't people I actually knew on Nextdoor. So I don't know what that's all about.
Well, and do you think there's any difference between, like, let's say you're doing a $5,000 thing or a $50,000 thing, like how you would search for those people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too, is that if you have need of one trade to do one specific thing that doesn't cost very much, Google search it. See who's out there who does that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where, Merrick, you did a good job of putting yourself out as a specialist in a certain thing. Rot, restoration of old homes, trim, rot repair, that thing, right?
Right. And that's how I found Merrick. One other thing is our hardware store, I'll give them a plug, the Diamond Lake Hardware, Settergrins on Penn, and the Linden Hills one are all with the same family.
Oh.
And been around since 1880 or something. They have a list of preferred vendors. And that has been incredibly helpful.
Huh.
So,
Oh, that's good.
It's hard to get on there apparently because Mary referred me to them and I haven't heard back.
well, you just got to persist because it depends on who some kid took your name. No,
Yeah,
it's
right.
not going to get on. But I will say, when we had some bad painters, and that they were on the list, and I went right to the owner of the hardware store and I said, "Get them off."
Yep.
Good. That's
means
good.
something.
It's better if they're giving somebody's name out. It's their reputation too, so they would appreciate
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah, I've been on, I hadn't thought of that, but I've been on preferred installers list at different places, like the Kohler store in Minneapolis. And it made a big difference because, I wasn't the only one on it. There were several, and I didn't always get the jobs or anything, but at least the homeowners who went into that store and asked the right questions could get a list of 3 to 5 people who were known to be good at the kind of work that they were looking for.
And our neighbors swear by Angie's List. They say they've always, every single time, have done well by that. So,
I know there are contractors out there who like it. I personally know far more contractors who don't like Angie's List and who find it to be problematic at best.
It was eye-opening when Angie's List had been around for a little bit, and I was standing in line because I was like telling my clients to
give
let
you
them
a
know
review.
about me and
Yeah.
give me a review. And then I was in line at Home Depot, and a couple contractors are talking and going, "God, isn't that joke? That Angie's List is such a joke. I have all my friends go on there and give me good reviews." And I'm like, "Oh." I just didn't really even think about it that way, but I'm getting so, as a contractor, that it was eye-opening to go, "Oh yeah, that's true. That probably does happen."
Yeah, and I think it enjoyed a good reputation for a long time because its earliest years,
Yeah.
they weren't charging the contractors, they were charging the homeowners to be a part of it.
Oh.
And when they switched to this model where they'll let us advertise and pay them to get leads and stuff, it really ruined it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know other people who swear by it too. But
And then
Yeah.
there's another one out there, but all of a sudden you're getting like call after call after call from these people.
yeah,
like,
they're both on. That's
like Thumbtack or one of those.
oh, that's one of them too.
And I'm just like, never again.
No, no.
So
Don't wanna be bothered.
anyways, I think, and then the other person we were talking on break that my former inspector, real estate inspector, and I went on all inspections with him, and not all agents will do that, but I wanted to know understand it, I learned a lot about homes. And they have a list of contractors.
I hadn't thought of them, but I bet that would work. I bet that makes sense. So there's two sides to this, because you're coming at this from a homeowner's perspective, saying, here's how I would go about finding a contractor. And then the other side of it is if we've got contractors listening, you can go reach out to the stores that you buy things from or the inspectors in your area and say, look, I've been at this. I'd like to get on your list. I think that's helpful for them too.
Well, and they're legitimate leads when you get them from the community like that. It's better than just, this was kind of, the fact leads, that she found me, that Mary found me on a Google search, and it ended up being a
pretty
great
rare
client and a good relationship and everything. Like, it's kind of a cold lead. If you get a lead from the local hardware store, like you said, there's a bunch of people in line that are all kind of looking out for you.
Yeah, local, right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Mary, another question I have is, do you or your husband make most of the decisions around the construction projects that you do?
I do.
And how does that go? Have you had contractors kind of not give you enough information and think you're not so smart, or have you been respected all the time?
Well, it depends on which contract.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The concrete person, yes, they were respectful. Merrick was respectful. We had to have our roof redone before you came, and he was not respectful. But he was from a different culture, a different country. I don't know if that had something to do with it.
Maybe.
Or
could.
he wasn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Merrick actually had his, because we have a flat roof on our house, and it's a very steep roof. So when your flat roof person came, who was fabulous, he looked and there were some problems. And so when I tried to address those with this owner, the roof company, he wouldn't do anything about it. And
Roofing is such a broad spectrum thing. From year to year, one company can have great crews, and then the next year not have great crews, and
Right.
it is a really, I don't know, it's just such a cyclical industry or something. But
Yeah. I do have a lot of clients that'll say that, the last contractor would only look at my husband when he was when I met with him. And so I've heard that from not a lot, but, quite a few of my clients that say, I just, they just walk in and totally don't even look me in the eye. And the whole conversation is directed toward my husband, who doesn't even give a shit, He's like,
dude, I don't even remember when you first met John.
It was a little ways into the project.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say that throughout my career, I've always defaulted to the female being the one who's going to be making the decisions.
Yeah.
And then occasionally been surprised that, like, oh, no, Steve is the one, I just really, I really didn't expect that. But yeah, it's almost, it's better when there's one person.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to, I don't know, I've found throughout the years that at least some portion of what I do is like marriage counseling too. And you have to be decent at reading people, because sometimes the person making the decisions isn't like the other person maybe isn't even wanting the project to happen, but it's happening anyway. So you can run into one of them's thrilled with you, and one of them there's always this awkward tension, and it's not really your fault or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll often ask who's the decision maker, who should we, make the calls or talk to or communicate with the most. We'll keep you all in the loop, but who do we, direct it to mostly?
Yeah, and they're not always, it's not always male-female relationships. You can have two,
people.
You just have to figure out who's in charge.
Right.
And Merrick, and John was very happy with Merrick and his crew, and we'd always call him the happy crew. They were always laughing and happy, and so it was. I actually,
that's great.
That is great.
As crazy as it sounds, I missed them when they left.
Oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah. It was like so quiet.
We hear that from our clients sometimes too, or our animals are going to miss your crew so much.
Right.
We let them out.
I have a bunch of clients I miss.
Yeah.
I miss not seeing them as regularly. I mean, there were times where I was
for
like,
sure.
oh, God, I hope I don't have to see you again anytime
Yeah.
soon.
Not taking that call.
But no, I definitely have a bunch of people that
There is some that you're going, yay, they're doing another project. I get to
Yeah,
see them
totally.
again.
Yeah.
We've got a couple.
Yeah.
We have quite a few this year, but there's a couple that come to mind.
And it's hard to transition from being the person providing you this service to like, hey, did we actually become friends over the last 6 months? You know, like, do you feel the same? Like, I feel like we're friends. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like you two have become, you know, you actually enjoyed getting to know each other over the course of the project.
Yeah, very much so.
I know. I need to stop by first. We should have coffee soon.
Yes, absolutely. I'm there.
Yeah, I've got a couple of people I should poke in on and say hi to for no
Right.
good reason.
And it's
Yeah.
winter, so you might have a little bit more time.
Well, we've only got a little bit left. We've
I-
talked construction the whole time. You go ahead, Merrick. You got another
Well,
question?
I was just, I mean, I was thinking I would love to hear some about your real estate.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you
career.
do for fun. Like,
Oh,
you know, like
Either way, you pick.
something.
What do I do for fun?
Yeah, well, or just who, you know, anything
I'm-
about you personally. Like,
I'm
it's nice to
supposed
know.
to be retired. I finally put my license on what we call ICE, meaning I can activate it at any time. And I really enjoyed it for a long time. Not to be a Debbie Downer, whatever that term is, but it just wasn't as fun anymore. I think the business has changed a lot. as
Real
far
estate
as-
sales? Is that
yes,
what? Yeah.
expectation, less relationship and more just transactional,
Sure.
somewhat. And because everything is driven by what they see online, and it's like they want to see it. Well, my ways are to go preview homes
Sure.
and make sure there aren't railroad tracks behind the house or something.
Right.
They
Right.
just don't understand, or a terrible house next door
Right.
that needs to be torn down or whatever. But everything is immediate, and so it just became not as fun for me. But I learned a lot.
Well, if Zillow has their way,
Oh,
I mean, if Zillow has their way, no one will ever need a realtor again. You just find it online, go buy it. But you're making a strong argument for why.
well, Zillow's CEO, he overestimated his own home by
Okay.
like $250,000.
Sure.
So he was caught doing that. Prices are totally different. And then when they look on Zillow and it looks like it's active, one time I was with these people and we were looking at a couple condos. And she said, well, I want to go look at that one too. And I'm looking, pull it up, and it's not on MLS. I said, it's sold. And she goes, no, it didn't.
Right, because
It's
I
on-
saw it
it's
on
on
Zillow.
Zillow.
Yeah.
Nope. I said, you are getting misinformation.
So interesting to hear your perspective on that and Zillow. Huh.
Well, I just bought a house, and it was on Zillow. I was like, I'd put in an offer. I was in the whole process, and it stayed on Zillow. It didn't say pending for like a week. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody's going to come in here and throw more money at this house, and I'm going to,
Lose it.
lose it.
Well, I think Zillow wants to take over all of the real estate transactions as well. Like, I think that's sort of not just list, not just show you what's out there, but also be the lender and the broker and the
And I just don't think
real estate agent.
in the big scheme of things that's ever going to happen. I think there will be a percentage.
Sure.
But I think in certain marketplaces, they are always going to rely on a good agent.
I think you're right, and I think that part of what's driving it is it's happening in construction too. A lot of I would say, I don't know if they're millennials or Gen Z or whatever, I don't know, but younger folks want contactless transaction.
Yep.
They don't necessarily ever need to or want to meet you. They just want to
No.
push a button, and then someone shows up, does the thing, and goes away, and you didn't
Right.
you didn't even have to deal with them.
Right.
You know, and I think that's even in construction. I'm seeing people sort of entering into that mode, like how can I do this without ever having to talk to you? And there are certain things like buying a house.
That's why it's changed.
It doesn't make sense.
And what I would always tell people is it's a lot more than looking at a house and making an offer and having it accepted. It's getting everything from that point all the way to the closing table,
Right.
Yeah.
where money is exchanged and you have title in hand. That's what makes a difference.
Right.
And you will not get that from Zillow. You will not get that from a lot of people. But, you know, I was with Keller Williams, and we have a great office, very successful. We're the top office in the, Twin Cities.
Yep.
So we sell a lot of property.
Yep.
So it really.
But I think the personal side of it, I think what you're, just having someone who can say, look, I'd show you that house, but I've been over there and you don't want, I know you well enough. You don't want to live there.
Yeah.
There's a reason,
And photos make it look really good.
Right.
Of course. Of
And
course.
it really does come back to the personal touch in almost, in what we do and
Yes.
in what you've done. The personal, knowing somebody personally, recommending somebody personally, having somebody hold your hand through a full transaction from beginning to start on your project or on your house, it goes a long way.
Right.
Just talking to my accountant, and people are trying to say, oh, you got your employee retention credit. Have you made, looks like we can get you a lot of money.
Right.
Well, they're taking 20%, then they get found out they've taken too many quarters into account, right? So they actually are now going to court without that person that just said, here, I'm not going to meet. I don't even know you, but I can get you through this process.
I'm always
They're long
skeptical of
gone.
that.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I'm like, if you never met them and somebody's giving you a call, I told my accountant, I'm like, I go, I said, don't worry, I never trust anybody but you on anything with numbers.
Well, and I always tried to go the, extra mile if I had a listing, and that would be getting a contractor in.
Yeah.
If it needed to be painted. I had a perfect example. There was a house on the market, beautiful home. And this was, 10, 12 years ago, and we had it listed at $600. But when you walked into the house, it was like little old lady furniture in the corner of a big living room, huge grand piano on the other side. And I said, I think we might want to redo this a little bit. They really didn't want to. And then the kitchen, bad wallpaper, bad paint, all sorts of things. So nothing was happening. It should have sold. And I said, let's go off the market. And here's what I'd like you to do. I said, I'd like to stage it with a whole different look. Paint here, do this, do that. And the next open house, a woman came in. I always remember her. She was from France. And she said, I said, hi. And she goes, I think we met before. And I go, yeah, we met here. She goes, no. I haven't been to this house.
It was a different house.
Oh, my God.
I've never been in this house.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you were.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh my gosh, it looks totally different. And they bought it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's always my,
Nice.
go-to story.
that's great.
Yeah, people, definitely have a hard time visualizing things as they could be from what they are, whatever. I
right.
know we all deal with that. So.
I know that from selling cars. You go in and you vacuum every little crevice and you put some oil on the dash and you fix all the little dings and stuff like that, and your car
like a
sells right
completely
away.
different thing.
Even
Yeah.
if it's just as mechanically sound, or
Right.
somebody else could go and vacuum it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, if there's nothing, is there anything else we need to go through? No, I'm getting.
We could,
I think we
could
did
be
it.
talking for a long time, I think.
know,
But,
I know.
No, this has been a lot of fun.
yeah.
It has. Well, Mary, thank you so much for coming in and joining us.
well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. You're all so enjoyable.
Yeah. we like to
think
think
so.
so. Yeah. We both did it. Great. Well, anything else before we go? Or
No, we got to get Mary a shirt.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just thinking that.
Okay, I like free things.
Perfect. Well, we got something for you.
Although I'm pretty frugal.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, till next time.
Thank you so much for listening to another amazing episode of the most important show out there. Before we go, we want to thank you again for supporting us and for all the lovely things you say about us on social media. Shows like this grow with help from people like you. And remember, keep sending us your questions. We really appreciate the stories and the great insights we gain from our audience. We also want to remind you that you can buy shirts, hats, and more at JoContractorShow.com. Be good to each other, and we'll catch you on the next show.